Okay, hi everybody. My name is Ian Goodrich. I'm head of product marketing at Spire Global, and I'm here today to run through this visualization tool called Spire Fusion. As you can see, it starts out with a global view, and we're actually able to control and add many layers from our data sources. You can see here that I have ship position, environmental layers, and additional layers under the options. We're going to start by explaining a few of these and then run through a few of the use cases that are inside this demo. Let's start with some of the weather activity. The Spire logos on each of these data sets indicate that the data actually is coming from the Spire data reservoir. So let's go ahead and turn on something such as wind speed, and you can see that we'll see a visualization showing current wind speeds by a heat map grade with an animation showing the wind speed and direction. This enables you to really kind of pinpoint areas of interest around the world that we might go and investigate in with some of the other layers. So we'll zoom in here and take a look at this kind of activity north of Atlantic. And let's take a look at some of the layers we have on for vessel filters. Let's go in here and actually color the vessels by gross tonnage. And then we'll just go ahead and do cargo ships. So we're going to skip all the other vessel types that are in there right now. You can see we have fishing vessels, passenger vessels, and things like that. We're going to focus on cargo. I can go up to the latest position, turn that on, and the system will go out and it will query the API and bring back the latest reported position for cargo ships, and it will color them by gross tonnage. And you can see the scale up here indicating the tonnage of the vessels by color. That gives us a chance to look for certain vessels of interest, zoom in, and query that vessel at that position. Here I can see that we are collecting the vessel's name, Ultra Diversity. It's a cargo ship, and it's on its way. I'd say that it's actually planning to be there in 7 days, so it's got a little bit of a journey left to go. Now, what's interesting is when you click on a vessel, you actually can receive the track of the last 7 days of positions that we've reported. So since the vessel left the coast of Florida here and then is headed out across the Atlantic. Now, what can be really interesting is if we remember the same vessel here and we go over to a slightly different view and we turn on predicted position, the screen will change over, but we'll actually now have a predicted position for that vessel as well. So you can see here on the screen the purple positions of the reported positions collected by our satellites, and then the white is actually indicating where that vessel is going to be over the next 8 hours. Now out here in the open ocean, that can obviously, just result in a straight course, which is what we would expect. But what can be really interesting is when we get closer to certain landmarks or areas of interest, such as ports or areas of congestion, and we can use that prediction to start to estimate where we might have bottlenecks. Now I'm going to show a little bit more functionality by zooming in on an area of interest. So I'm going to turn off the positions. I'm going to come out here and I'm actually going to go look for a certain EEZ that might be quite interesting. So I'm going to go down to additional layers here and turn on EEZ. And here it actually will draw out EEZs as currently understood. An EEZ, just for the record, is an exclusive economic zone. It can be really interesting for fishing protection and things like that. So let's take a look at French Polynesia here. This is an area that has some really strict fishing controls. So now we're going to go ahead and we're only going to look for boats that are identifying as fishing. And we're going to draw a box around the French Polynesian area here, the EEZ. Just going to do this quite roughly just as we get going here. Okay, so now that I have that box drawn, I can actually turn on vessels that are inside that box. And again, this is just fishing vessels. So all of these vessels here are actually classified as fishing vessels. So we'll go ahead and click on one and just validate that that data is correct. Yep, it is. It's a fishing vessel. And it is moving around in a very normal kind of pattern for a fishing vessel there. It's kind of taking some circles and looking around. Now, what's interesting is obviously it isn't crossing into the EEZ. It's actually outside of that right now. It's close to it, but it isn't quite into it. Now, what can be interesting is we can turn on predicted position, and we actually can play through that. So we'll actually see all these vessels moving, the ones that I've selected in this box, over the next 8 hours. This could just potentially give users of the tool, users of the data, kind of some insight if they may potentially come and cross into an area they're not supposed to be. It could be used for additional analysis, potentially sending out other devices or ways of collecting to see if there's data there. Now we're going to reset everything we've got on the screen here. We're going to go take another look at some of the weather information. So I'm going to turn off the EEZ information, and for now I'm going to turn off vessels. I'm going to come back to my environmental layers. Now I've reset the view here. I've gone back to weather because I wanted to show one other feature of the predicted positions. I have predicted positions on, and I have wind speed turned on. And there's a vessel here that's quite interesting. If I click on this vessel here, it's a tanker. You can see its previous path where it's come out of here across the North Sea and it's heading across the Atlantic. But what's really interesting is if we just zoom into the predicted positions, you actually can see how the vessel's predicted position is actually moving away from that more severe weather we see at the bottom of the screen here. And that's actually part of our prediction algorithms as well. We do take the weather data that we collect and the forecast, and we combine it with the predicted positions. That gives us the ability to actually predict where a vessel may choose to move around severe weather. And you can see that demonstrated quite well in this visualization. Now I've reset the view again to turn on to the temperature. The layers that we have coming in from the Spire data are all time enabled. So actually I'm able to move through the temperature forecast here over the next 7 days. And as I play that, you can see the temperatures changing across the globe. That actually works for all of the core layers: the temperature, the total rain, the atmospheric pressure, the humidity, and the wind speed. I've reset the view once again to highlight the heat map capabilities of the data that's streaming in. With one click, I'm able to create a heat map of current vessel positions. You can really see the buildup of traffic in the Mediterranean area and the North Sea, the Gulf of Mexico, and then moving out, of course, into Asia, where there's these giant sea routes moving through. It's going to be a really good way of quickly identifying hotspots of traffic. I've reset the view once again to show you some of the export capabilities that are built into the tool as well. Let me go ahead here and do another kind of interesting geo filter of an area. I'm just going to go ahead and draw a quick bounding box. Let's say, for example, I'm particularly interested in traffic just off the coast of Somalia here. I'm going to draw a quick bounding box, and I'm actually going to turn on vessels that are inside that. Again, you can see it's limited to just that area, which is a really nice way of working with the data. Very easily, I'm actually able to click on here, turn on history and prediction, click view report, and the tool will actually go to our data and collect the historical traffic for that bounding box and the predicted position. We'll then turn that into a very easy export that you actually can decide to download and then process with other tools. This is a really good way of extracting the data and working with it. Okay, finishing up here, I've gone back to a global view and I have everything filtered by color, by speed. This can be a really interesting way, again, of kind of digging into vessels of interest, ones that are moving particularly faster than normal, maybe moving towards areas where there's concern. Really just highlighting the capability of the underlying data. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up now, and this is just really the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the data sets that are available and how it can be visualized and used for use cases.